Hello everyone, and welcome to my future learning project. In this presentation, I'm going to start off by sharing a bit about my trajectory in higher education and my career ambitions. After, I will share some details from an interview I conducted with a faculty member at Baruch College, and I'll wrap up by discussing my major takeaways and key pieces of advice that I gleaned from the conversation. I hope that you enjoy it and find it useful on your own professional journey. So I started off my journey in higher education as a writing tutor way back when. This was my first student-facing position and my first experience working in a department at a college. I got my big break in 2015 when I became a full-time academic advisor at the City College of New York. In that role, I learned a lot about college policies, got some experience as a course coordinator, and supervised a small mentoring program among other duties. And in 2017, I accepted an academic advisor role at LaGuardia Community College, which involved a lot more student contact and outreach. I also had the opportunity to supervise college assistants and even learn how to write professional evaluations for employees, among many other things. And most recently, in November of 2020, I transitioned into a specialist role at the CUNY School of Professional Studies. My work there has less direct interaction with students, but I still get to speak with them as a visiting advisor. I enjoy the role as I'm becoming a specialist in Blackboard, online learning, student orientation, and get to use my creative abilities to create presentations, graphics, and videos for our department. So while I enjoyed being on the student affairs side of the house, I knew eventually that I'd want to transition into academic affairs. And my current role is in academic affairs. However, my ultimate goal is to complete a PhD in either Brazilian studies, political science, or sociology and become a professor in the United States and later on in Brazil. So I'm very interested in starting to publish research articles and becoming a part of the Brazilianist academic community through professional associations and presenting at conferences. So while I plan to stay in my current role for some time, I do plan to start publishing articles and applying for PhD programs in the next 2 or 3 years. These aspirations led me to interview Dr. Rubia Valente, who is an assistant professor at the Mark School of Public and International Affairs at Baruch College. So my conversation with Dr. Valente was informative and gave me the motivation to continue in the direction of my ultimate dream of becoming a professor. She's an assistant professor at the Mark School with a PhD in public policy and political economy from the University of Texas at Dallas. She researches in several different areas, but of interest to me was her focus on higher education and race issues in Brazil specifically. So during our conversation, I asked her several questions about the process of applying to PhD programs, how she became a professor at Baruch, what the nature of her work at Baruch is like, what skills are required of a good researcher and professor, and tips for applying to jobs and fellowships. So she shared that her major responsibilities as an assistant professor on the tenure track can be summed up in three main areas. That's teaching, research, and service. So research, she shared, is the one that takes up the most time, especially if you're looking at a tenure track position. And a bulk of her time is taken up doing literature reviews, working with Stata, the program that she uses, writing up research papers, and trying to submit them. We also spoke a bit about translating or how to translate a master's thesis into a research article. And she also encouraged collaborating with professors who can help me edit and proofread my materials. She shared that the first step is always cutting down the material, especially if you're working with hundreds of pages, and honing in on your data specifically. She also recommended a few journals that I might look into submitting my work to, LAS, or Latin American Studies Journal, being one of them. And she then shared that her teaching usually involves a 2-2 course load, which means teaching 2 courses in spring and 2 in the fall. And with regards to service, she shared that this really involves committee work, admissions committees, for example. She mentioned that she sits on the Baruch Honors Program admissions committee, so that's one portion of the work that she does as well. So the work is really divided into 3 different parts: the research, teaching, and service portion. So if I had to synthesize the main takeaways from my conversation with Dr. Valenci, I would categorize them into three main areas: research, networking, and resilience. So for the research portion, Dr. Valenci emphasized the importance of researching several doctoral programs as opposed to going after just one. She herself shared that she, in retrospect, wished that she had looked at more than one doctoral program. The one that she applied to just sort of made sense. It was close to home. She had family members at the same university. But she mentioned that in retrospect, she would have liked to apply more and encouraged me to apply to several. The program that you apply for and the faculty you work with can also greatly impact your job prospects later. So that's something to keep in mind, especially when researching different PhD programs. There may be faculty members that you want to work with or that are renowned in their field, so it would be good to be linked with them, do research with them. She also encouraged me to apply to Ivy League programs. When I told her I thought this was a bit far-fetched, she said, you may want to consider it because there are actually fewer doctoral applicants than you think, and the chances are actually higher at this level. So that's something I'm definitely going to take to heart and see what's out there with respect to Brazilian studies and political science doctoral degrees. She also mentioned that the dissertation advisor and the ones that you do research with significantly impact your job search. So these are factors you want to take into consideration when selecting a program. The school you go to, the advisor you have, all of that is going to count when you're in the market looking for a job. So you'll want to find individuals with similar research interests that would find you a valuable asset to their team. It's almost like an ego boost as well. You know, someone in a particular field is looking for a student to research with them, expresses the same interest. It's a win-win situation. And this is also one way to try and secure a teaching assistantship at a university, which is always great. Dr. Valenci also emphasized the importance of networking, networking with professors at all stages in your academic journey. They may be the ones to provide your letters of recommendation for a PhD program, or they may be able to recommend you for a position, which is the case that she described to me coming to Baruch College. She originally applied for just a teaching position, but then a assistant professor position opened up, and the contact that she had recommended her for it, and then that's how that worked out. She also encouraged me to join two associations, LASA and BRASA, which is the Brazilian Studies Association, and the Latin American Studies Association, respectively. These are important to network, to go to conferences, to present papers. She really encouraged me to start getting involved in the academic community in that way. She also shared that this was a piece of advice I found useful, that there's no course that teaches you how to be a good teacher, right? So resilience, actively looking for professional development opportunities with regards to teaching and classroom pedagogy are all essential to becoming a good professor. And of course, you also pick up a lot of the skills on the job: communication, active listening, ability to synthesize information to ensure your students understand, all important skills you pick up on the job. And finally, resilience. She really emphasized the importance of being resilient and how important it is to submit your work to several journals, apply to several positions and programs. Not every paper will be accepted on the first try. Get used to rejection. It's nothing personal. You just have to keep trying. So this was a good piece of advice for me so I can move forward knowing what to expect. I found this to be a very realistic and helpful piece of advice. She said it's critical to develop a thick skin and accept rejection. Keep on trying because eventually you will succeed. So thank you for listening to my future learning presentation. I hope that some of this information was useful to you on your professional and academic journeys, and that our paths may cross again sometime. Best of luck to you all.